You're listening to the Poptart Podcast. Girls Down. You already know.
There were these spaces in the East where nobody was living and artists were just filling them up. And there was so much room and space for people to just make art and playing gigs and doing interviews and punk rock shows with me and my machine. And it just kept growing. And it was overlooking like bombed out buildings from my window. That was an incredible experience to realize the simplicity and the power of these songs.
Hello.
Hello.
And welcome to Poptarts. I'm Emily Rems.
I'm Callie Watts.
We're both editors of Bust Magazine in New York City. We love talking to each other about pop culture. We love talking to you about pop culture. And I am so excited because our guest today is someone who has been making feminism feel fun and sexy and radical for over 20 years. Meryl Nisker, better known by her stage name Peaches, is a rock star, producer, director, visual artist, and performance artist who rose to fame in the electroclash era of the early 2000s. Her solo albums include the terrifically transgressive Fancypants Hoodlum, The Teaches of Peaches, Fatherfucker, Impeach My Bush, I Feel Cream, and Rub. And she's about to embark on her first international tour since 2017 in celebration of the 20th anniversary of The Teaches of Peaches. Her work has meant so much to so many for so long, and I can't wait to talk to her all about it. Welcome, Peaches, to our show. Yay!
Yay! Hi! Hello! Hello! Hello!
Hello.
Happy to be here.
You know, I would love to begin with your origin story if I can. I know that you were born in the 60s in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
How did you find your way to music, and what set you on the path to becoming the fatherfucker who we all know and love today?
I was born in Toronto in a suburb, and I went to Jewish parochial school. So that's like half day Hebrew, half day English. And I was not very happy about it. I didn't understand why I had to learn this language that nobody spoke. Quite seriously, it doesn't sound cute, but that's what I thought. Also, the teachers were very rude, very mean. They weren't very didn't help me not wanting to learn. It was not a great environment, but somehow I kept going back. It wasn't very creative, and I loved music, but I had no idea I could be a musician. I thought you had to like learn actual notes and music and be born into it, or I didn't realize you could be a musician. So what I did know in the arts was I knew theater because we had a lot of family in New York and we would go visit and we would go to musicals. I would also see a lot of musical movies on TV, things like that. And I listened to a lot of very pop radio. And at the time in the 60s, early 70s, it was actually AM radio. So that was sort of what I was doing. What I was into. I really didn't have a lot of encouragement in school to be creative, and it's sad. It's sad how they, don't really give you that chance. You play the recorder. If you play a wrong note, they're like, you don't get a solo. If you try and sing something, no. There's no idea of progression. It's just do it now, do it for the parents, dress up, blah, blah, blah. And my parents didn't really care. They weren't that, interested in being a perfection, but it just bothered me. And through the years, I started to get more and more, I questioned more and more why it was like that and who it was benefiting and how kids were learning and what I was interested in and how that didn't get attention. So more and more, I turned to theater. I wanted to be a theater director. And I still didn't know I could be a musician. I ended up in university in a theater directing program with 7 other people at York University. I did it for a year. I kept telling people I wanted to make cool musicals. They really thought that I was not a serious student by saying that. They were like, we're doing Voltaire here. We are exploring Samuel Beckett, you know, and I was like, I want to make cool musicals like, Ken Russell and Tommy and like Phantom of the
Fuck
Paradise.
yeah.
I was like Tina Turner, Gypsy Acid Queen. That to me, that speaks to me. So I dropped acid once on a Monday night, and the next day I woke up. And I've only done acid twice in my life, to be honest. I've done mushrooms a lot, but I dropped acid. I woke up next night, and I'm like, I don't need this course. I am not going to continue here. It's not my place. No, I'm not. No. So instead, I actually did a lot of just exploring at York University and other departments like, multidisciplinary artistic programs. And those also proved quite challenging. I did my first visual art programs, and teachers were not accepting that I'd never, ever drawn in my life. So I'd be life drawing, and the teacher would lean over me and go, "You're stupid." She had this accent. And I'd be like really discouraged, but it didn't matter. But needless to say, the second half of the program was very conceptual. And all of a sudden I was like, pulling out piano pieces and finding old blenders and making like ready-made art and having concepts and writing, poetry or lyrics for it. And then she's like, "Now you're brilliant," so, or there'd be other classes, or I'd be in a class where it's like disciplinary. It would be like dancers, musicians, visual artists, and actors. And the teacher was quite an amazing musician. He had a glass orchestra where he'd fill glasses with different water and make different tones. But whenever the assignment was music based, he'd always pick the musicians to do the music. But whenever it was dance based, everybody could do it. So we had a lot of fights actually, because I'd be like, why can't I play music even though I'm not a musician? And so just a lot of exploration, a lot of questioning. And then, when I was younger, more like junior high and things like that, and high school, questioning these songs that I loved, and also like, why didn't they ever include me or my perspective that I didn't even realize was queer, or even just like empowered women perspective? Why is it always like big-legged woman ain't got no soul, or squeeze my lemon till the juice runs down my leg, whatever it was, and I was like, why I don't feel included, and all these things. So all those questions bubbled up inside me. Plus the fact that by the age of 7, I really wanted to sing, but I didn't, like I said, I didn't know. I know I'm going out of order, but you don't mind that, right? People can make their own
Do not
chronologies.
mind at all.
I remember at a cousin's bar mitzvah, I was 7, and I turned to my mom and said, "Can I sing with the band?" And she's like, "I don't know. Can you sing?" And I said, "Yeah, I can. We listened to Barbara Streisand at home. I want to sing The Way We Were." So I went to the band, and they were eating dinner, and then I sang The Way We Were, and then I had to sing The Way We Were for every bar mitzvah wedding until I was like 15. And I was like, no, until I was probably like 17. I was like, I play electric guitar now. I'm going to do Piece of My Heart and play electric guitar. And then they stopped asking me. So stuff like that. But, just all these questions and not really understanding, not even knowing what art school was or that it existed. And not that my parents were not educated or interested. It's just that it wasn't really, their thing. So, and I found my way, and by hell or high water, actually, because it's just, I didn't even know. It just kept pushing me into it, pushing me into my questions. And I had folk bands with, ex-girlfriends where we'd be singing about each other, about how we're hurting each other, things like that. It started in a daycare. I was working in a daycare. It was so boring when I had my first job, still finishing university, like my first job, not out of university, but like knowing that it was coming to an end. So, and all the teachers were so tired and bored, and all these kids really, they needed some stimulation. And I was like, I'm learning guitar, and I developed some program through my theater ideas and creativity where kids would role play. And I took all those ideas where teachers were never giving me a chance to process things, just you put on a dress, you're going to play the princess. No, now you're going to be the pirate, and I would tell stories, and I'd let all the kids move around in whatever they were and have a chance to choose whatever they wanted to be. And even if I had a story with like 5 pirates, 3 alligators, and no princesses, that was fine. I would make the story. It's not like, we need a princess. Oh no, now we have too many princesses. It was just,
Mm-hmm.
it was about not shutting down kids. It was about letting them have space. And it really became a popular program. I started to teach all over every YMCA in Toronto. There was around 6 of them. And then I started teaching at private schools and after school programs, because I developed and I listened to the kids. And I also learned a lot about kids as, uh, just holding their attention, and how to hold
Yeah.
attention. But also not be the focus, still give them, sort of being like, give room for them, but also, yeah. Anyway, so at the time I was teaching, and it didn't become daycare because I ended up doing my own programs. I would teach like 9 classes a day. I was also developing all my own musical ideas. Yeah. So, and that takes me up until somewhere, if you want to.
Yeah. You know what? I'm so happy that I asked and that you told me in this way. I'm kind of flipping out a little bit that there's so much overlap between my story and yours. I
Really?
always know that I related to you in so many ways, but like I'm also Jewish. I also underwent Jewish education growing up, and like they were so like I was taught by Hasidic women who were like just like the iron fist, and I was like, no way, I'm radical. I want to be free. And they were like crushing me, and I was like, get me out of here. And I also studied directing in college, and I was
No
like too
way.
weird for that
What?
at Emerson. And after that, I also taught at an after school daycare program, and I started an
kidding
improv
me?
theater program with the kids because I was bored and I wanted to make art. And so I made crazy improvisational plays with the kids at the private school where I worked after. I like am following you every step of the way. And also I was like, I want to sing, I want to do stuff. And people were like, no, you're fat, you have to be a stage manager. And I was like, wah. So all of those things, like I was just like, holy crap, like we're like sisters from another mister. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember like being told, you're the bat in this play. I'm like, wow, like you don't have any words. Like I never even got to audition. You're the bat. Yeah. They were always like, look at me and go like, she's going to be trouble. Give her a small role.
I was the mom and everything because I was always taller and rounder than everybody. So I was always the mom. But you're so meaningful to me because you're a truly boundary-breaking, transgressive, sexually expressive Jewish woman, which is something that I've always aspired to be. Like, I feel like somehow when those of us who are educated in a conservative religious environment, like bounce back somehow in a transgressive way, like we really go hard. Like I'm thinking about like Allen Ginsberg and like Dr. Ruth and Annie Sprinkle. Like there's something about like Jewish weirdos. Like do you see yourself in that lineage?
I do actually. Yeah, I do. And I especially love Annie Sprinkle. Annie is like, I just love Annie's attitude and what she's done for post-feminist porn and sexuality and self-expression, and how she's always done it very with a smile. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like just like
Yeah.
always so comfortable with it and like cheeky and not like, yeah, exactly.
Like she's such a nice Jewish lady who is also inviting you to look at her cervix.
Exactly. Public cervix announcement.
That's right. You know, we're having you on the show today to celebrate the fact that you are about to embark on your first U.S. and European tour since 2017 to commemorate the 20th anniversary of your landmark album, The Teaches of Peaches. You will be performing the whole album in its entirety, which is so fucking exciting. I cannot wait to see the show when you get to Brooklyn. Tell me what it's like to revisit this material again all these years later and how you feel about reuniting with all of your fans in person for the first time after like this globally traumatic, isolated time. We're all so excited to be reunited with you again.
Yeah, it's like a double whammo reuniting experience, because not only is it just a pandemic reuniting, but also then 20 years of reuniting. And I feel like a whole different, like people who didn't get to go out. Obviously, nobody got to go out, so they want to come out, break out, and then also for them, this album means so much. So maybe they haven't ever seen a Peaches show. I feel like there's going to be a lot of people who've heard my music who's never seen me play, and that's exciting and emotional.
Oh,
I know. I feel like we're going to cry. Are we going to cry?
Oh my God, if I cry, it's going to be bad. I gotta watch it. I gotta watch the booze before the show.
stay in your feels too much.
Yeah, no, it's
I know.
really, it's really emotional. It's really I am really blown away by the trajectory of my I don't like to call it a career, of just my path, and just all the things that have transpired from it and changed, and it's truly beautiful. And all the
Yeah.
all the when I first started, there was a lot of like one trick pony. What the hell is this music? What is this? There was a lot of people, like, yay, queer music, yes, empowerment, all that. But there was a lot of like, what the fuck is this? This is music, or so. I just, it's also, I've been active all this time too. I've always said too that I want the mainstream to come closer to me. I don't want to get closer to the mainstream. And I feel like that has happened it has happened.
I believe it. Yeah, I
That's
agree.
crazy. It's happened. It's also obviously, the world is growing exponentially in horrible ways and beautiful ways at the same time. But yes, it's all in the mainstream of things that I have, without the sort of vocabulary or language or even really, in place that I helped to try and bring to the forefront. So whether there's horrible things happening, obviously, all the abortion bans and all the trans teen sports bans and all of the LGBTQ pushback, but it's because it's in the mainstream,
Yeah.
Right. There was a great article on you by the CBC titled "The Teaches of Peaches, the Spiritual Godmother of WAP Looks Back on Her Debut Album's 20th Anniversary." And in that article, the author, Andrea Warner, writes, 20 years before Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion brought WAP to the dinner table, Peaches had earned a spot in Urban Dictionary, rankled rock critics, and subverted the male gaze. This is the legacy of the Teaches of Peaches, a record that was so far ahead of its time, we still haven't caught up. What are your feelings on being cited as a kind of foremother of feminist filth? Like, how do you feel as being cited in this way?
How fucking awesome is that? Yay! Hooray for me. And
Yeah, I agree.
And why I did it is just what I was feeling and what I wanted to express. It wasn't like, I'm going to be filthy and dirty, I'm a feminist. No, it's like, I don't hear what I want to hear, and I want to say what I want to say, and I'm that there's a lot of people who want to say this too. I want everybody.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, I want everybody to sing "Suck in on my titties" because we all have titties. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you think that we'll ever truly catch up to the Teaches of Peaches as a culture, or do you think it's always going to be like pearl clutchy, like now and forever?
I think it'll be more pearl necklace, but I think that, to be honest, I think Fatherfucker is way more transgressive, and it didn't get as much. It got more attention from more queer people telling me that is the album that they came out to. But in terms of mainstream and music world understanding, it was just way too queer, and I'm so proud of that. And I think people do. I think people have caught up with Teachers of Peaches, but I don't think they'll ever catch up with Fatherfucker. You'll never catch me.
One step ahead with my beard on my face.
I'm stroking my beard right now.
I'm stroking both beards.
Yes.
Something that I find so fascinating about your journey is that you made a huge creative leap forward in 2000. After expatriating from Toronto to you went to Berlin, and then you released The Teaches of Peaches from Berlin, and your whole life changed forever. What made you move there, and what is it about Berlin that helped you become the artist that you wanted to be?
Well, so I wrote the album in Toronto. I want to make sure
Okay.
that is clear. I was going through a lot of changes. I had thyroid cancer. It wasn't like I was suffering from it or anything, but if you know you have cancer, it's a mind fuck on your constitution anyway, and you reevaluate what you want out of life. And when I decided that I want to be an artist, and I want to fully go into this, and I I was dissatisfied with my Fancypants Hoodlum band, and I was also met some like-minded people who also dissatisfied with their own band. I've told this story many times. It's how I ended up having a band called The Shit. I don't know if you know the story or if this is interesting, but I wanted to have a girl band with another friend. And she said, I know a guy who lives next door who has a basement where he jams. And then there's this other guy I have a crush on. And I was really mad because I wanted an all girl band, but I went and jammed with them and I didn't say a word to them. They passed around a joint. We all got a high. And then I got on my electric guitar. She played her bass, drummer. And then there was a keyboard player. And then we just started yelling profanities and sexual things at each other. And we were having so much fun. And all of us were so dissatisfied with our bands. And then we stopped, and then someone yelled, switch. And we all switched instruments. And
Love it.
I went on the drums. I'd never played drums. And I was like, wow, drums are fun. And then I went to, these keyboards. And I always thought keyboards were uncool. So I was like, oh my God, what is this keyboard synthesizer? That is cool. And I started playing, and I was like, this is really fun. And we just continued to jam. And after our first jam, we all got together and said, we're the shit. We're amazing. We're the shit. Let's call ourselves the shit. And we said, this is what we've been waiting for, some connection with each other that's going to connect with an audience so we can just have a good time. And we're only going to write songs together when we're together as a group. And let's rename ourselves. And I said, I want to be named Peaches, not because of the struggle of the four women in the song by Nina Simone, but specifically just the last word she says, the way she sings the word peaches with such passion. I wanted her to be singing that to me. So I said, I want to be Peaches. And my friend said, I'm going to be Sticky. And she has actually just changed her name this year to Sticky, like legally. And then my other friend said, I want to be Thermometer. But then he ended up being Gonzalez in the end. And then the other friend said Maki. So, and everybody is very active in music. We all make very different music now. But I embodied that really got me. And that was, we were a band for like a year. And I really learned a lot about connecting to myself and the audience and my true just not holding back. And when everybody moved away, I got an MC 505. I didn't know what it was. I just walked in a music store and started playing it. I'm like, oh, I could be the drummer here. I can be the bass player. I can make weird sounds. Oh, synthesizers. Oh, they have guitar samples. So I took that home in Toronto and I started playing it. But then Gonzalez I'm sorry if I'm a run-on sentence, but Gonzalez was going to Paris, and I said, hey, why don't I meet you there and we can travel around? And we had instruments. We didn't have laptops then or things like that. So we had these like instruments. I had my groove box and he had this double CD player, and we would go to bars and say, hey, we can plug our instruments into your stereo system. And then we can play for the whole room. You know what I mean? It was like, whoa, okay, let's do that. So we went to like Amsterdam, and we were in Paris, and then we went to Berlin, and we didn't know anybody there, but we found this cool spot called Gallery Berlin Tokyo, where a bunch of artists and musicians hung out, and we were like, "Hey, hi, we're from Canada. Can we play here?" And they're like, "Yeah, Thursday." So we just played. We didn't even sing. We were just playing electronic music, and it was such a freeing. Like it was, the beginning of the. It was 1998 actually. So the wall had just come down, like, you know, less than 10 years ago, and there were these spaces in the east where nobody was living and artists were just filling them up, and there was so much room and space for people to just make art and party and do art, and that's what it was about, and it was incredible. And I had to go home and teach kids and uh, i I was really inspired. And when I went home, I started to make the album, and I made the Teachers of Peaches. And then I went and visited. I sent demos over to a small label we met, and then I played a show there, visiting, and I got signed for like 4,000 Deutschmarks, which is 2,000 euros for the album.
Amazing, but totally worth it.
Yeah, and I was like, great, I'm gonna move there because I had, saved my money from teaching kids and stuff. So I was like, I'm gonna just go there. The internet wasn't what it is today, so you're like, you want to be near your label and all those things. So, and then when I moved there, people were they already knew my music because I had been sending stuff, and a month later, I was already like playing gigs and doing interviews, and I just went from there and kept playing and doing just punk rock shows with me and my machine, and it just kept growing. And I probably toured for 3 years that way, and then made Fatherfucker, and then toured that for 3 years, and then it went on and on and on.
It's so inspiring. I was in Berlin in 1995, just very briefly, and I went to this place you probably know called the Tacheles Kunsthaus, and that place was fucking crazy.
That's where my studio was.
Oh shit!
Shut up! I can imagine you there so easily. Like in 1995, there was this giant room that like looked like it was the size of an airplane hangar, although probably it wasn't that big, and it was covered in hundreds of fish that had been spray painted silver, and they were nailed all over the walls, just hundreds of silver painted fish all over this giant space, and they were just playing the soundtrack to Twin Peaks really loud, and it was echoing off of these walls, and there was just these giant fish, and I was like wandering around it when there was like maybe 4 people in like this vast space. It was crazy.
That's a good point about the 4 people, because also there were all these crazy spaces and these insane things going on, but there wasn't a lot of people. There wasn't so many people. Like, so that was cool too. It was a very interesting time, but also very like confusing time in terms of like, for queer culture, it was a bit confusing. It was like, there is no queer culture because we're all together. But if there was like a lesbian scene, it was very like shut off, or the gay scene was very male, like, oh, you can't enter. Sorry, only you can't enter if you're female. Or there was like drag queen also, just really like a very closed, very like, no, so that I know that people rag on Berlin now, but I feel like it's opened up a lot, and some people would probably think that's bullshit, but it isn't. And in Tacheles, they had like these small movie theaters. You could just go in at any time, or there was like 4 different bars on different levels. There was like, people's studios. Mine was just an open space, and it was overlooking like bombed out buildings from my window.
Yeah. I felt like Alice, like down the rabbit hole, and there was just so much space for people to do so many things. It sort of blew me away.
Yeah, it turned into sort of like a squat Disneyland. Like they would take tours there and stuff.
Oh, weird. For the last 20 years, your music has been an essential part of the soundtrack, helping to fuel feminist activism. Whether it's Fuck the Pain Away or I Don't Give a Fuck, in my experience, someone is always playing your music whenever women have decided to mobilize and hit the streets over the last 20 years. Now that abortion rights here in America are truly at a crisis point, how do you see your art in terms of it being fuel for the revolution taking shape today?
Use it any way you need to use it, as long as you're on the side of good, please. I've just made sure that I have my thank God for abortion T-shirts lined up, and my Roe versus Wade T-shirts, so that I can make sure that I always have a part in the show where I will be representing in that way. And I feel very privileged to be able to just help, um, like mobilize with just having you know, having having a stance and having an audience to make sure that I say something. That's the privilege that I mean, so that I can, help motivate people who are already motivated, actually. But I just, any way I can help. It's Noise for Now has been very active, and there's so many groups, and I'm just floored by this whole insanity debacle bullshit. It's really damaging.
The last time that I saw you perform, it was here in New York. You had dancers on stage wearing these incredible full body vulva costumes. It was just everything. It gave me so much life. As I was preparing to interview you, I was thinking about that. And I was also thinking about a recent experience that I had while I was editing a piece for Bust about Madame Gandhi. I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she had this video in which a woman was wearing an elaborate wig that was shaped to look like ovaries and fallopian tubes and a cervix. And while I was editing the story, we had to change the wording about it because we couldn't say female reproductive organs to describe the look. We landed on the phrase internal reproductive organs to describe the image, which was fine, because of, some questions about being sensitive to trans readers. Mm-hmm. But it made me wonder if you have similarly had to adjust your ways of expressing yourself like we have around issues of anatomy and gender and sexuality in your art when trying to connote a kind of female sexual power.
Yes. And actually, you heard my reaction. I was like, what? I didn't even see that coming, what you were going to say, which is actually quite sad for me. So I feel like I'm always learning and growing. I feel like, in a way, what I was saying before about when I originally wrote music, these songs, there wasn't much language or a vocabulary, and it's very important. It's very important. Also, intersectional language and inclusivity in ways that we have to remember. There are so many more ways to be inclusive, and so many sensitivities that we have to be aware of, and that we're always learning. So it's important. It's important, and I value these lessons.
Yeah, I mean, we're all just like evolving and growing and learning new ways to be better. I don't want to lose the sort of like sense of revelatory joy of like the pussy power that you brought to us. I think that it's just like important to denote that you don't have to have like a specific kind of anatomy. Like nobody cares what's in your pants. Like pussy power is for everyone who wants it.
Right. We're all cunts.
We are all cunts in our own special way.
Mm-hmm.
After all of these years as a feminist icon, Peaches, do you still consider yourself a feminist?
I consider myself an intersectional feminist, humanist. I'm a humanist.
Uh-huh.
I want, I'm a feminist. I'm also a humanist. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, you can be more than one thing.
I want people to, yeah, yeah. Do you consider yourself a feminist?
Absolutely. I do. I believe that feminism means that that all genders should have the same rights and privileges
Yes.
in our society, and that we don't, and that when we see, especially as a self-identifying woman, when I see women and gender non-conforming people not being afforded the same rights and privileges as men, that we should speak out and say so.
I think we also have
I think
to.
that's feminism.
Yeah, I also feel like women. I feel like men of trans experiences get sort of the shaft in a way, and I feel like there should be more love there. That's what I just want to say, that because I feel like we always say like feminism and binary, non-binary, and feminism and women, and men of trans
Right.
experience kind of they never get mentioned in that way.
They need love too.
That's true.
So
That's right. How has feminism impacted your career, and vice versa? How has your career impacted your feminism?
I think it's obvious. I don't even know how to answer that. That's like,
Well, yeah.
it's I know it's a bust question for sure, but I think that it's just, that's what it is. That's what it is. Right on the nail, right there. So,
Right. You don't get much more feminist than the Teaches of Peaches. I agree. What are your hopes and your dreams and your goals and your plans for 2022? What is on your vision board?
I think I'll do a tour, an anniversary tour.
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
Starting in a couple of days.
Yeah, I think I'll do a big anniversary tour. So that's like something I've always wanted to do. I've kept my archive for, I have an archive of all my costumes, all my, like 8,000 hours of footage, and I've got all my instruments, or everything that's ever been tour related, everything that's ever been studio related. So this is a chance also to use a little bit of a live archival moments. I reprogrammed the MC 505 to play these songs again. So that was incredible experience to realize the simplicity and the power of these songs through this one machine. So that was just a goal for sure, and also drawing from costumes from all different parts of my career to bring it out. For the nerds, for the costume nerds, they're like, "Oh, that was 2005. Oh, it says Sam. That was the drummer on the Impeach My Bush tour." Like whatever. It's just fun for me to, because there'll be like these like archival shows of people's objects and costumes and stuff like that, but to have it live in your show and make it active, that was also a goal for me.
Bring back those nude suits.
Bring back those
nude suits.
Oh my god, so much American Apparel.
I
could open it. I could open a an American Apparel store that is has no canceled people in it. And also then the second half, I want to focus on my new album and my my new projects. And so there's a lot going on.
What can you tell us about the new album? I'm excited for it.
Well, I can't tell you so much about it. I have a lot of songs written, and let's see when I finish this tour if those are the songs, if there's new songs, how it's gonna take shape. I'm gonna be open in that way, and but I do want to work with a dance collective that we've been developing together, a 9-piece dance collective that's more about like human sculpture and understanding relationship between pop singer and their dancers, and the lack of ego or the ego and the relation to audience, and a lot of discussions around that, and that was kind of a little bit coming out of pandemic. We got to do some workshops and some shows together, and want to continue that work.
Awesome.
Amazing. This is my last question, and it is the final question that we ask all of our guests on Poptarts, and that is, Whatcha Watchin? It is a broad pop cultural question. We're talking about movies and television and books and music and podcasts and music videos. Anything that you are consuming pop culturally, we want to know about it because it is probably very, very cool. Peaches, Whatcha Watchin?
I don't know if it's cool, but I'm obsessed with Grace and Frankie.
Oh, I love Grace and Frankie.
Oh,
I am obsessed.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with Lily Tomlin specifically. Just like I've never seen a TV character like that in that age group. Like just, I don't know. It's just the show developed. The first 3 episodes, I was like, oh, I have to watch it, but I don't know. And then now I'm deep in it. I am
When
deep
they
in
do
it.
interviews together, they seem like they're just really homies. They seem like.
Yeah, totally. They need Dolly Parton back to 9 to 5 Part 2. I really enjoyed Someone Somewhere, Bridget Everett's new show.
Me too.
And very, very sad news about the actor who played her father. Who passed away. But I found it super real and emotional. And I think I was so proud to see just Bridget just be Bridget and be accepted. And
Murray be Murray.
And Murray be Murray. I know I've known Murray forever. Yeah, so that was awesome. So that's what I'm watching.
Amazing.
Yeah.
This has been such a thrill and an honor and an excitement and a delight to talk to you. We just love you so much, and your work means so much to us. Thank you so much for coming on our show.
Thank you so much. Oh, this is awesome.
We are going to take the very briefest of breaks, and then when I come back, I'm going to ask Callie, and Callie, hopefully you're going to ask me, what you watching?
What you watching? I don't know. I want to know.
Before we get back to the show, I want to tell you about our new sponsor, Wolfie Vibes Publicity. If you're working on a new project and find yourself in need of a kick-ass publicist who communicates well and works tirelessly to get you the coverage you're after, consider going to Wolfie Vibes Publicity. Wolfie Vibes Publicity is a female-owned and operated boutique PR firm that will get you where you need to be, and you'll even have fun in the process. Get in touch via wolfievibespublicity.com for details and quotes, and tell them that Poptarts sent you.
Essentially, I started it because every female comedian I know was amazing and hardworking and hilarious, and I knew would make great podcasts. And every male comedian I know already had a podcast and was doing their own thing. Hi, I'm Kate Moldenhauer, the founder of More Banana Podcasts, a comedy podcast network entirely produced, hosted, and led by women. We have shows about politics.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Let's Get Civical. When the Supreme Court puts stuff on their calendar, they use the word docket.
So their Google Calendar is a docket. So technically, I have a docket.
You have a docket. We all have
a docket. Sex? Welcome to my vagina. I'm Jessie Karen.
This is Rebecca Frank. What were ancient Greek dildos made of, Jessie?
They were made of padded leather and, anointed with olive oil.
Yep.
Scams?
I'm Caitlin
I'm
Bradley.
Sue Smith. And we love scams. She tells them she's a German-Russian heiress, and she seems like she has a lot of money, and people buy it. That's basically what's happening.
So as soon as she got a loan, she would cash it as much as she could out before anybody caught on.
It's amazing.
So smart. I mean,
so smart.
I mean, it's terrible, but like to take that money out immediately.
Because women are actually pretty versatile and funny. More Banana is a network of women's voices, unfiltered and uninterrupted. Find us everywhere you get your podcasts and learn about our growing roster of shows at morebanana.com.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Hey, Poptart listeners. Have you been trying to record your own podcast, but you keep getting bogged down by technical problems? Luscious Logan can take the raw recordings of your show, edit and produce them to give them that rich, full-body sound that you hear right now. If you have a deep need to express yourself and sound good in the process, reach Luscious Logan. LuciousLogan13@gmail.com. That's LuciousLogan13@gmail.com. If you want to have that luscious sound.
And we're back.
Hey.
Callie, we talked to Peaches. Can you believe it?
Fucking Peaches. You know I love a lady that also enjoys a nude suit.
Oh, yeah. You and Peaches have that in common, among other things.
Yeah.
And now is the time in the program where I ask you because I got to know and I want to know and I need to know. Callie Watts, what you watching?
What am I watching? Well, I haven't been watching too much because I'm on my packing journey. But I'm loving the Julia Child. It's done now. But there was an episode. Did you see the episode that had Betty Friedan in it?
Nope.
Well, it is crazy. So it's like Betty Friedan and Julia Child ran into each other at some event, and Julia Child is like super nice to her, and Betty Friedan like shades her so hard for like doing women's work, you know, because she's like how dare you enjoy the kitchen? How dare you enjoy cooking? You're setting feminism back. And then it really got into Julia Child's head and fucked her up a lot. It's a really good, interesting.
That's terrible.
It's an interesting episode because, you know, you're like, you get what the second wave was about, but then you're just like, let a bitch just cook. What is wrong with you? You made her feel so bad, and Julia Child is so sweet. And then at the end of that episode, she meets Mr. Rogers. So you will love that.
Aww.
And then I've been watching this show, Norseman, which I guess has been around since like forever. Like, I don't know how long. I want to say 2016, but I could just be pulling that out of my ass. And my friend Jog got me onto it. It's on Netflix. And it's kind of like Our Flag Equals Death. You know, that pirate show on HBO that's like spoofing pirate life, but this is spoofing Viking culture. And it's pretty funny. Not a lot of ladies in it, but you know, if you like Our Flag Equals Death, you would like this. I can't believe I'd never heard of it before, but it's ridiculous. Like, you know, because they just get into the stupidest situations, much like Our Flag Equals Death. And then the last thing I've been watching is Girls 5 Eva, new season 2.
Girls 5 Eva.
I am the worst, and I keep watching things that are really good while I'm working, so I miss so much shit. So I basically have to rewatch like all of it because I got a screener. But there's The Lunch Lord is hilarious. This lunch man. I basically have to re-go back because every episode is so packed with all these little tiny nuggets, and I just did myself a disservice by watching it in the background. You know what I mean? I keep doing shows that are more worthy of my time. I should just stick to Riverdale in the background, which has totally jumped the shark now and is perfect background TV because it's batshit bananas. What have you been watching?
Thank you so much for asking. The first thing that I'm watching is trash, but it's delicious, which is season 4 of The Circle on Netflix. Do you watch The Circle?
Oh my God, I love The Circle. This one.
Have you been watching season 4?
The Spice Girls are in it.
That is the gag of the season. I freaked out. I did not know going into it that the Spice Girls, not all of the Spice Girls, but Emma Bunton and Mel B come in early on. They're not there from the beginning, but pretty soon into it, they arrive and they are playing under an assumed identity. For those of you who don't know what The Circle is, it's this reality competition show that's hosted by Michelle Buteau, where people stay in individual apartments in this one big building, and they all interact with each other via like an internal social media system that's specific just to the game. So they're all basically like interacting on social media, and they can either interact as themselves or they can catfish everyone else and actually play with an assumed identity of someone else because they think that someone else would be more popular than they are. And there's periodically everybody has to decide, has to rate everyone in terms of who they like the best. And at the end, the most popular person wins money. So this season, 2 of the Spice Girls, Scary and Baby, were together playing one guy named Jared.
Which are kind of my favorite spices anyway. I mean, Posh Spice was meh. Scary was the best spice.
Yeah, but I mean, Ginger did a lot of spicing. She was a very spicy Spice Girl.
Ginger did do a lot of spicing. She spiced up my life.
It would be hard for me to choose my favorite, but I was very overstimulated that 2 Spice Girls were there. And so like all these people were like interacting with this dude named Jared, not realizing that they were in the presence of pop royalty. And then when it was revealed that one of the players was actually the Spice Girls, everyone flipped out and had like a total meltdown. And then there was all of this suspense around whether or not they would be able to ferret out which of all of the players playing was the Spice Girls. And that was really fun.
I love them.
So I recommend it.
They will always stay relevant to me.
I know, I love them. Something else I was also watching on Netflix was the Andy Warhol Diaries. Andy Warhol, the artist, he put out a collection of his diaries in 1989. And it wasn't exactly his diaries. It was basically the transcript of like these exhaustive interviews that he did over the phone with a writer named Pat Hackett. And I remember it so clearly when it came out in 1989, because I was 14 years old and I was still living in the suburbs of New York, and I was being very mercilessly bullied, and I hated everyone, and I knew that I was going to be an art star, and none of these bitches understood me, and nobody understood that I was going to go to New York City and be a big star. And so I would actually walk around my junior high school with a little backpack with this giant volume of Andy Warhol's diaries in my backpack that I had taken out of the library. And I didn't know what the hell he was talking about, but I very studiously read like, oh, okay, Bianca Jagger was at Studio 54 that night. And that's very important to know. Like, I didn't know what he was talking about, but I read that thing like it held all of the secrets in the universe, because it was going to prepare me to leave my shitty town and go to New York City, where people would understand that I was an art star and where nobody would be mean to me ever again.
And here you are.
And so it was, and here I fucking am. Hello, world. No, but I mean, it was instrumental in me one day moving to New York and making a life for myself here. And so it was very nostalgic for me to watch a documentary based on that book, because it was really formative for me when it came out in 89. And they used AI to to recreate Andy Warhol's voice from all of his many interviews. Wow. So it was actually his voice reading them out loud via AI. And since he had like a very flat affect anyway, like it really sounds like him, even though it's a robot, because he sounded like a robot. It was really good. And kind of sad and wistful. And it made me nostalgic for a past New York that I very much wanted to get to, but that I missed by the time I got here in 2000. And then the last thing, well, not exactly, the penultimate thing that I'm watching is something that I'm actually listening to. I am listening to the audiobook of the novel The Sentence by Louise Erdrich.
Oh.
Louise Erdrich very recently won the Pulitzer Prize in the National Book Award. She's a novelist and a poet, and she writes children's books. She is a Native American, and she also is the owner of a bookstore called Birch Bark Books, which is a little independent bookstore in Minneapolis that focuses on Native American literature. And this book that she wrote, The Sentence, is a ghost story that takes place in a small independent bookstore that focuses on Native American literature. It's cool and creepy and funny and weird. And the big revelation for me listening to this novel on audiobook is that Louise Erdrich is doing the reading, and she's an incredible actor. Like, she has different voices for all of the characters, and her reading style is so vivid and amazing. Like, she should be an actor. I had no idea, because sometimes when authors read their own work, like, it's kind of flat because they're, writers aren't always actors. But she's really knocking it out of the park. I really recommend, if you haven't read The Sentence by Louise Erdrich. It's an excellent ghost story. Who doesn't like a ghost story that takes place in a bookstore? Like, right. So many things that I enjoy at once. God, books and ghosts. Like, yeah. But I would say definitely go for the audiobook. It makes a big difference. Like, she is an incredible actor when it comes to reading her own work, and I had no idea that was true about her. So that's a very nice surprise. And the last thing that I've been watching is the majestic Poptarts Patreon page. Woo! Yay! We really need your help to keep Bust alive, and hopefully you'll be excited by all the goodies that we've hooked up for Poptarts listeners at patreon.com/PoptartsPodcast. Callie and I, with help from Team Bust, have been typing up show notes exclusively for Patreon donors that include the links to what everybody has been watching for all 129 episodes. We've got totally ad-free episodes available. There's exclusive content on there, including our amazing episode that we taped with Big Frida and more. Please check it out at patreon.com/PoptartsPodcast. Also, I would like to take a moment to thank our luscious producer and sound engineer, Logan del Fuego. Muy caliente, Logan. And our girl gang at Bust Magazine. You can find me on Twitter at Emily Rems and on Instagram at Rems Emily, but you cannot find Callie on social media, so don't try, right?
No.
You can, however, email both of us. I'm at emilyrems@bust.com.
Callie W at bust.com.
And you can learn more about this show at bust.com/Poptarts. And finally, please rate and review this show on Apple Podcasts. It really helps us get the word out, and we super duper appreciate it. Until next time.
Excellent.
Sorry, we need to pause for a moment as our producer, Luscious Logan, uses the bathroom. We don't want there to be any interference. We don't want to pick that up at the top of the show, so just hold for one moment. He's gonna